ahead and get started. So, like I said, if you're new to Silhouette, go ahead and drop where you're from in the comments. We love to know where you're tuning in from. We already have some people tuning in from France and Saudi Arabia, all over the world. I love teaching these classes because in any other way I wouldn't have the opportunity to interact with you guys. So welcome. And South Africa. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And pull up Silhouette Studio. So this is what the Silhouette Studio icon looks like first off. So after you go onto silhouetteamerica.com, you can download this software for free. It's 100% free, the basic edition, and anybody can download it. You don't even necessarily to have already bought your Silhouette machine. You can download it even if you are a brand new user or somebody that's thinking about buying a Silhouette. Download the software and check it out because it's super awesome. I think it's super great software and it can do so many things, but it's also really easy. This class today, we didn't want you to have to buy any Silhouette designs because there's a lot of things that you can do without actually purchasing any designs from the design store. So we are just going to be using the tools that we have over here. If you were here a little bit earlier, I did mention the Business Edition and the Designer Edition. And those just give you more options. For example, one thing we're going to be doing today is using the Shape tool, or the drawing tools, which are just a bunch of shapes. It comes with 4 shapes, and if you have one of the upgraded versions, there's a whole bunch more shapes. And those are just a one-time upgrade fee that you can find on our website if that's what you're interested in. But like I said, today we're only addressing the basic edition and all the things you can do with it. So to start out, I'm going to show you guys how to make a new document, as if you just opened up the studio and you are starting afresh. So you come up here and you go File, and then you just do New, and it'll bring up your new file right here. It looks exactly the same as the other one that I already had open, just because there wasn't anything on there. And depending on what machine you used to cut last time, it will pull up that same size of mat. As you can see, I'm using the Cameo, which I imagine a lot of you guys are using the Cameo also. It's one of our most popular machines. So it brought up my 12 by 12 mat, and it even has 12 by 12 paper, which we will be able to adjust going forward for the different sizes of paper that we're using, but we are going to be using just some 12 by 12 pieces of paper. So this is the basic screen of Silhouette Studio. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? Let me see. I might have to stop my screen share to look at you guys' questions, it looks like. So if you have any questions, go ahead and look at the screen for a second and let me know if you have any questions immediately, and then we'll go back into it. I'm just going to wait for a quick sec. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions for the immediate look at it, but we're going to go in and just kind of dive in. So, we have our square. The first thing you want to do when you're making a Silhouette project is come up here to the page setup. This will automatically be pulled up when you pull up Silhouette Studio. So if you find yourself navigating to a different panel or something like that, it's just this top page in the top corner. There we go, and it pops up and you can drag it, sorry, my computer is being really slow on the screen share. There we go. So you can drag it around, you can move it, whatever you want. So make sure you have the correct machine. Like I said, I'm using the Cameo 4, but if I was using the Portrait or the Curio or the Cameo Plus or the Cameo Pro even, I would select that right there. And then my cutting mat, I'm using the Cameo cutting mat also. But if I was using the Plus, this one is just a longer mat. You can use our smaller mats in our bigger machines. For example, if you have the Cameo Pro, you can use the Cameo 4 cutting mat. And then I'm going to select my media size, and today to start out, I'm going to be cutting on a 12 by 12 piece of paper. So it's going to take up the whole section, so I don't need to adjust anything right now. One thing that I love about this feature, though, specifically about the media size, is that you can change this so you're not guessing and checking on where it's going to cut. So if my piece of paper is only 6.75 inches long, and I've measured it and I know that. I know to not necessarily put my shape over here because I know that that's not going to cut on the mat. Instead, if I really wanted this shape and I had to have this size and I wanted to use this piece of paper, I could rotate it and fit it on there. So that's something that I really, really like about being able to see the media size, and I highly recommend adjusting it when you're using different pieces of paper. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share for a second and kind of show you what we're going to be doing today and what you can expect in this class. So I have a few different sets of paper right here. So what I have is these two cards, and these I just found them laying around our office yesterday. And they're just paper cards. You could easily make this on your own with your Cameo if you didn't have one that was already made, but I'm just going to show you how to take a card that already exists and just embellish the front to make it super fun and unique and a fun little project that you can do without buying any designs. So for this one, the pink one, I'm going to go ahead and make some different colored dots, kind of like polka dots that we're going to be using. So we're just going to be using the drawing tool, the different shapes, to do a whole bunch of different circles, and that's what we're going to put on this one. And then this one, we're going to cut out a word on our orange piece, whether we do thank you, love you, something like that, happy birthday. We're going to do that with the orange piece of paper using the text tool. And then we're going to use the offset tool to create an offset behind it that will add some layering and some texture. So basically we're going to be doing 3 different tools. We're going to be doing the drawing tool with the different shapes, the offset tool with the background on the words, and the text tool. So those are 3 really simple things that you can use in Silhouette Studio that I think are really helpful. And they really make it so you really don't have to buy any designs from the design store if you don't want to. So let's go ahead. Do you guys want to see the shapes card first, the circles, or the text tool? I know the text tool is very popular, so go ahead and put in the chat which one you want to start out with. I hope we can get through both of them, and I anticipate that we'll be able to, but go ahead and just tell me in the chat and we'll take a little fast poll. So we have 2 votes for text with offset. Okay, a resounding text with offset, so that's what we're going to start out with. So I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share one more time. Not one more time, guys. You're going to be seeing my screen a lot. I don't know why I said one more time. So first off, let's go ahead and cut our text. So I'm just going to load my piece of paper onto my mat. Sorry, you guys are watching my screen right now, I know, but I'm just going to put that on my mat. Perfect. Okay, awesome. We're going to go back into the software, and the text tool is this tool down here. It's an A for like the alphabet. I mean, I think in most programs your text type tool is going to be an A. So all you do is you click this A, and then you just click anywhere on your document, and we're just going to type a word. So let's go ahead and do, let's do thank you. I love sending people thank you cards. Okay, it's a little bit delayed on my computer. My Silhouette Studio is just a little bit behind. There we go. Okay, so we have thank you. I'm going to go ahead and capitalize my Y. Okay, and let's even put an exclamation mark at the end. Okay. Awesome. So one thing that I love about Silhouette Studio is that you can use any font that you already have on your computer. So as you can see, just when I started typing, it just defaulted to Lucida Grand, which isn't even necessarily, I mean, you can see it. It's just a regular font on my computer. It's nothing too crazy. It's not a bad font, but I'm going to show you guys how to switch the font. So you're going to double click the font and highlight over it, and then you're going to come up here to your text box, and to me this looks a lot like Word or Google Sheets or anything like that, something that any type program that you would use, and I can literally select any font that I have on my computer. In addition to that, we have so many cute and fun fonts in the Silhouette Design Store. But there's just so many that you can already use that you don't have to buy anything for. Arial is a really, really common font. Times New Roman. My favorite font is called Railway. I use it for everything, and it's my favorite font. But I'm going to use American Typewriter. I think could be fun. But go ahead. If you have a favorite font, go ahead and tell me in the comments, and we'll see if we have it on my computer. Just a regular, everyday font that you might think of. If not, we'll just use American Typewriter. Okay, let's just use American Typewriter. Okay, I don't think I have the Playfair font, but we're just going to use American Typewriter. And then somebody asked, do you know where to get 24-inch vinyl for the Cameo Pro? So like I said, we're not necessarily going to be able to answer lots of questions beyond the Silhouette software, because that's what we want to focus on, but we actually bought our Cameo Pro vinyl off Amazon. So we don't directly sell it here at Silhouette, but that's where you can get it. So we changed it to American Typewriter, and it looks super fun. I like this font a lot. And then we're just going to create the offset, and then we are going to send it to the machine. So I'm going to stop my screen share for a sec, because that is the text tool. I mean, that's pretty much the extent of it. It's nothing too crazy, but you can do so many things with it. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and if you have any questions about the text tool, go ahead and put it in the comments. And while we're waiting a second before we go and cut that, I'm going to show you how to load the machine. So you're just going to go ahead and come up to your machine, and this gray line right here is where you're going to load it in. So you're just going to line your mat up with the gray line, and then press this up arrow, and that's just how you load the machine. It's pretty simple. And that is just how you do it. So one thing that I did want to say about the text tool is that it is a super awesome thing if you're just learning and you want to start something. My mom, I remember when we were younger, she had her original cutting machine, and basically that was all it did was text. I mean, that was the extent of the machine, was it just cut out letters. And she was a teacher, so we used it all the time for her classroom. We would cut out posters for a poster board that she needed. We would cut out the alphabet, and she used the heck out of that thing. Like, she seriously made so many things with it. And actually, we got my mom a Silhouette machine for her birthday in October. And she's kind of new to it, so it was something that she wasn't super comfortable using. And pretty much every time she made something, I had to go over there and make it with her, which I was totally fine to do because we had a lot of fun crafting together. But actually, there was kind of a fun surprise. My birthday was in January, and I was actually quarantined with COVID on my birthday. And so I wasn't able to go out on my birthday or anything, and I was kind of bummed about it. And I came home, like I went out on a walk one day just by myself, and I came home and my apartment door was covered with birthday letters that said, "Happy birthday, Mckenna." So that was kind of an awesome surprise for me, because I didn't just not know that she was making it, but also I didn't know that she could figure out the text tool by herself. So that was kind of a fun thing for me to realize, is that she could use it to make letters too. So it doesn't look like we have any questions about the text tool, so let's go ahead and cut our text. So it looks like right now it says this is 5.6 inches wide. Before we cut it out and decide on our final size, let's do the offset. So the offset tool is this star tool right here, and it is one of the most convenient tools, and I really do believe that. It makes it so easy to add a solid color behind your text, and I love doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I think it adds so much dimension to your card and just a really fun element. So what you do is you select the item you want to use the offset on, and you just come up here, and you can either do an internal offset or an offset. And with this one, an internal offset doesn't really make sense because the letters are already so thin that it wouldn't really do anything for us. So we're going to do an offset, and it's generating it, and as you can see, everything's like overlapping, and it just adds this even border around the whole thing. And we actually can make that more. Obviously that's way too much. Or less, depending on how much we want. I want to make everything connect, like from the K to the Y. So that's about a good amount for me. Let's see. Okay. This one's good. I like this. And then after you're done, you can also select a hard edge. I always do a rounded edge. I like rounded edges better. And then you're just going to click apply, and it creates our offset for us. So one thing that you can do, obviously it has this little tiny piece on the inside that you don't really want, I would say. So you're just going to right click in your Silhouette software and do release compound path. That's something that I would probably take notes on. If you have a hard time remembering things, right click and then release compound path. It's gone now because I released it. But you can click that and delete it. So now we just have one big like bubble kind of behind our letters, and then our letters on top. So one thing that I have come to realize is I don't like dealing with super tiny thin letters. So something that I want to, a tip kind of that I want to give to you guys is, instead of cutting out the offset and then cutting out your letters and then gluing down all your letters that are super thin, if you're using a thicker font it doesn't matter as much. But one thing that I like to do is I just like to hold down my Alt key and drag the offset, and now instead of cutting out this as two pieces, this is going to be one piece and this is going to be the back piece. And if that doesn't make sense, I think it will once we cut it. But then your letters just become empty space almost, which makes it a lot easier to cut. So one other tool I want to mention is the color tool, and this just makes it so you can see kind of what you're looking at. So I'm going to color our letters white just to show you kind of what I mean. And then I'm going to color this like, that's going to be orange. Oh, whoops. Colored the letters orange. So we're going to make those white. And then we're going to make this orange. So it's actually orange polka dots. So that kind of makes it easier to show you guys what I'm talking about with the empty space. So we'll only have to glue down a few tiny pieces instead of the entire Y and the entire exclamation point. And then this one, let's just make it like a brown because it's kind of a cream color. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drag this off to the side, and then we're going to drag over both of these, and I'm going to go ahead and group them by, I just drew a rectangle over the top of both shapes, and then I'm going to select this box up here that says group, and that makes it one shape so I can move it without having to make the pieces come apart. And then I am using an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, so just to make sure it'll fit, it's just a letter size piece of paper. So it does fit, and it's 6 inches right now. Let me see how big our card is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 5 1/4. So we're going to need to shrink this down a tiny bit. So one thing, when you shrink it down, make sure you shrink the offset at the same time. And I think if we make it like 4.9, that would be good. You can make it whatever size you want. We just want to grab those and move them at the same time so that we know that it'll be the same size. So it looks like we have some people in the chat. Oh, and I figured out how to pull up the chat in here, so that's perfect. So somebody asked, when would I use offset? So Loretta, if you still have that question, sorry I didn't see it when we started out, but it's really to create a border around your text or your shapes. And it adds just an extra dimension. We're going to be layering our paper, so it just makes a really cute border, and Gabriella actually answered and said that. She uses it for stickers, which is a super good idea. And Ellie said that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea, awesome. And then Bailey said, I know I don't have to use a mat with vinyl. Would you always use a mat with paper? Yes, you need to use a mat with any paper that doesn't have a backing on it. So if you're using sticker paper, that technically has a backing on it. But with just regular paper, there is a setting you can use that's like a pop-out cut that you can read more about on our Silhouette 101 blog. But for this class today, we're just doing the basics and we're going to cut with the mat and the paper. So after we have our piece on our window, we're going to come up here to the send panel. So if we were buying a design from the design store, you could enter the design store right here. If you were importing a design, which we will do a beginner class about that also, because I think that's also a helpful thing to understand, is how to buy something from the design store and import it into your library. You would click here, but when we're sending it, which is what we're doing right now, you're going to click the very most right-hand corner. And right now you can see that only this red line is showing up around our offset, and we actually want that to show up around everything. So it says cut edges right now, but we want it to just cut everything. So now it's going to cut out everything, and it's going to be like one shape with a few negative spaces. So when you plug in your Cameo and you connect it, it'll show right here that it's ready to go. And then I'm using the auto blade, which is what most of our customers use. It's the blade that comes with your machine. So right here it's going to be in the tool section, and we have our cut instead of our cut edge. If you did just want to cut the edge and you wanted just the offset, the thank you wouldn't show up. So then after that, you're going to come over here to the cardstock or the material, and I've selected cardstock plain for this one. This first piece of paper that I'm using is kind of in between. It's not cardstock, like heavy cardstock, and it's not thin paper, so I just kind of chose cardstock plain. And then it gives me recommended settings. And I want to point out that these settings sometimes need to be adjusted, whether you have a blade that's old or, you know, even right here, I have 6 pieces of cardstock on my table, and every single piece is different. Some pieces are heavier than others, and some pieces are thinner than others, like the orange polka dot one. So it's just kind of a trial and error thing. I always recommend not unloading your piece until you know that it's cut through, because if it isn't cut through, you can always just send it for another pass. But for this one, we're just using plain cardstock, and I'm going to try and just use the regular settings. We did put a blade in this right before we started, so we shouldn't need to adjust necessarily. And then after you have all of that set up, you're going to come down here and you're going to press send. And then I'm going to stop my screen share so you can see the machine cutting. Alright, it looks like you guys have had some questions, but it looks like some people have answered in the comments, so thank you to those who are helping out with that. Yes, so you don't need registration marks for this project since it's not like a print and cut project. This is just the most basic project you can do. And then Teresa just asked, is this class being recorded? And it is being recorded. So you can go ahead and watch it on our YouTube channel after. So it looks like my cut went through perfectly. So to unload it, I'm just going to press this button right here. And then I like to start at the bottom and then peel upwards when I'm taking things off my mat. And this piece is a little bit thinner than other pieces, so I need to be a little bit careful. And I did want to ask, do you guys notice that like where you put your 8.5 by 11 piece of paper is especially sticky on your mat? Because lately when I've been doing projects, just right here where the end of my paper is especially sticky. So that's one thing I've noticed lately. So I like to turn my mat over when I'm doing paper things because it will hopefully not tear. I didn't grab a spatula. So if you don't have a spatula, you can always use like a ruler or something. But just peel it back very, very carefully. And I actually did end up having a small tear right here. But once I glue it, you won't even be able to tell. So this is what our piece looks like. We can always take out the middle of the A and the middle of the O off our mat and glue it down. But I think it looks just as cute without them. So we're probably not going to do that step for today. But these are our letters, and we successfully used the text tool. So while I'm peeling off these letters, oh, we have a spatula. Thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and scrape this. If you don't have our silhouette spatula, you could use so many things. You could use a ruler. You could use like a kitchen scraper. Like my mom has like a dishes scraper thing that's kind of just like a little square that has like a hard edge, and you could use that to scrape off your mat, whatever you want. So you don't have to have our tool, but it is helpful. Okay, so now that we have that piece done, and I think it's going to be a really nice size on our card, because we're going to put it on here and then we'll have the offset behind it. So now we're going to cut our offsets. Kelly said that she really loved, or Ellie said, I love the offset on the text versus cutting and gluing each letter. I wasn't planning on showing that in this class, Ellie, but when I picked the American typewriter font, I was like, this is going to take forever to glue down. So I knew I needed to change something and did that, so I'm glad you like it. So I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share again. And then we're going to come to our design tab once again. And to move something in Silhouette Studio, all you have to do is click it and drag it. So it's to me, it's pretty intuitive. I know it's not easy by any means for a lot of people, but that is something that's really nice. And this piece of paper is also an 8.5 by 11, so I'm not going to adjust my size. But I'm just going to go to the send panel, and we have our cut line that's showing up perfectly. This kind of like harsh red line is shows what's cutting. So that's how you know if you're going to get what you want. And this piece of cardstock is a little bit heavier. So I'm going to keep it at 3 since we put in a new blade. And then maybe I'll show you just how to send another pass, because I think that's something helpful if it doesn't cut all the way through. So let's go ahead and press send. And then I'm going to stop the share so you can watch the machine. Carrie asked, can you use transfer tape with paper? And you can use transfer tape with paper. You'll still just have to put some sort of adhesive on the back of your paper. But some people do that when the letters are super tiny, so that's a good idea. And then Kelly said, make sure that it's not too sticky of transfer tape, and that's a very good point. Okay, so, sorry, this is so close to the top that I'm having a hard time like peeling it back to see. I'll just show you anyway. I think it cut all the way through, but theoretically if it didn't, I'm not going to unload it or anything like that. I'm just going to come back to my send panel and press send one more time. And it'll just do the exact same thing. If you unload your machine, even if you try and load it back in, it's really hard to get it lined up with what you already cut. So I wanted to show that because I think that's a really helpful tip that you can use when you are just starting out. Okay, perfect. So I'm pretty sure it cut last time, so I'm going to unload it now. And then we're just going to start from the bottom and peel it up. Perfect. We have a great cut right here. Could also be really cute if we would have added even another offset on the outside and made it so it kind of like had even a border rather than just behind it. So this is what it's going to look like. So we can go ahead and glue this down. And there's so many different kinds of adhesive you can use. I'm going to be using a glue stick. I don't love a glue stick, but when you have this like empty space, it probably works better than the tape roller, which is what I'm going to be using for the rest of the projects. But when I do use the glue stick, I don't even cover everything. I just kind of dab around. And don't worry, this purple glue stick will dry clear. I don't know about you guys, but I never believed my teachers in elementary school when they told me that. Okay. So after we put that on there, we're just going to lay it down. And like I said, I did get a little bit of a tear in mine. So if I was actually making this to give to somebody, I probably would have recut that just because I got too eager when I was peeling back my T and my H. But then to glue it onto here, I'm going to use a tape roller, which is my usual adhesive of choice. And you just drag it on the back. And you can do a few stripes if you want. Got a little bit on the table, that's okay. It's a craft table, right? And then make sure that you're not putting it upside down, which I would have done actually had I not checked. So my card opens up like that, and then I'm just going to put it right in the middle of my card. Okay. Alright, so this is just a fun little way that you can embellish a little thank you card. And this took us, I mean, since we're in a class, it took us about 15 minutes. But if you had a lot of them, if you already had them cut, this would be such an easy way to like bulk produce a few thank you cards that you could just have handy. I'm going to add a little bit more glue on the exclamation mark. Okay, perfect. So, this is our first card. Does anybody have any questions about our process? I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chat once again. Okay, can you explain the difference between cut and the cut line, red line around your design? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Right here. Okay, so you can't tell as much with this one since it's just one shape. So I'm going to pull this over. So we have this selected and we already cut it, so we know that all the cuts are going to show up. But if I was just going to cut the edge, or if I only had cut edge selected, it's only going to cut around the very outside. So theoretically, like this thank you doesn't exist if you're just doing the cut edge. If you're doing a print and cut sticker, which is what this is most helpful for, that's what you would use it for. But if you're doing a regular cut, you always want to make sure you have cut selected so that all of the pieces of your design are showing up. So let me know if that answered your question, and I'm going to pull up the chat. And Ellie said, test cut is a great habit to get into. I can show you guys that on our next card, because that's a good point. And Rebecca, I'm super glad we could answer your question with that. So somebody asked, is there a list somewhere to show us what pressure we will need for the different materials, or does it default when you select the material? And she just got her Silhouette Cameo 4 in the mail about minutes ago and is starting this webinar totally blind. So first off, welcome. We're super excited to have you. And yes, so the settings are default. And you can go through the settings and look at all of the different ones, but they are default. Like I said, you might have to adjust it based on your specific material or your blade. But they are set for us. That's the beauty of the auto blade. And they're not always perfect, but I've found that they're pretty good most of the time. So, so then Gabriella asked, what is simple line, etc. options above the cut/cut edge? I'm not sure if I understand your question, Gabriella. I want to answer your question, but maybe just phrase it a little bit differently because I'm not exactly sure what you mean. So we can come back to your question once you put it in the chat. Somebody said the tabs. Oh, up here. Okay, so I understand the question now. Thank you. So these are just for different kinds of projects. So those definitely are something that's kind of a more advanced feature. So we can feature that in a class in the future. Even Kelly Waymit, who's on the class right now, she did a sketch pen class where she used some of these up here. So if you want to check that out, that's on our YouTube channel also, and that'll explain a little bit more about these options. So it looks like we I think I got to all the questions about this one. So let's go ahead and move on to the other card. And if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these off to the side. Maybe I'll make a few more cards after the class is over. But now we're going to move on to our pink card. So for this one, I have 3 different colors of pink cardstock, and I'm going to use the circle shape, which is actually an oval, but we're going to make it a circle. And then we're going to use the offset tool to make some like dots that have some texture to them. So we're going to come up here, and I'm going to select my circle. It says draw an ellipse, so I guess the technical term is ellipse. So I'm going to just kind of drag and make my shape. And I'm not picky when I bring my shape into it to start out, because I know I can't draw a perfect circle even in a computer program. So after that, after you draw it, you're going to come up here, and it says it's 2 by 2.125. So it's almost a circle, but not quite. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, make sure your lock is not locked. Make sure it's unlocked. And you're going to come here, and I'm just going to press 2 also. And that will make it a circle. And so this circle is 2 inches, and then after I do that, I am going to lock it, so that will make it so it's always scales to 2 inches, or it scales to a perfect circle. So I think 2 inches is a little bit big, so I'm going to drag it down a little bit, and 1.768, that should be a good size. And then I'm going to drag it. Actually, I'm going to use the offset tool. So, I duplicated that. So I'm going to come here and select my circle, and then come to my star offset again. And this one, we are going to be doing the internal offset. So the internal offset is just the opposite of the regular offset. It's going to bring everything into an equal border. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And as you can see, it gives me a nice little circle on the inside. And then I'm going to click it one more time to give me another one. So this just gives me some different layers of circles, and I'm just going to drag those apart. I'm using 3 different colors of paper, and I'm going to cut the 3 different colors of circles. Like my darkest pink is all going to be one color on the back, and then my lighter pink is going to be another one, and my lightest pink is going to be another one. So I'm just duplicating this by holding down the Alt key and dragging. And I think that's the easiest way to duplicate. You can also select it and right click and do copy and paste. Okay. So let's go ahead. I don't think we'll have room for more than 3. So we're going to send this, and all of my pink pieces are actually 12 by 12. So I don't have to change it. It's totally optional. If I want to change it, but I am going to, just to show you what it will look like on the piece of paper. So we just need to make that 12 also. Okay, so now we're going to go and send, and my pink pieces are actually fairly thick. Let's do the light pink. I'm going to stop my share. So we're going to do the light pink on the bottom, because I think that'll be a really nice contrast on top of our color of our card. And this one's my thickest piece of cardstock by far, so I'm going to bump up the force like we had somebody ask about. If sometimes you do need to adjust it, and you do, it just depends on the paper. Okay, so we have our cardstock selected. I'm going to bump it up to 4. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and send it. Okay. Alright, and Sherry actually just said if you hold down shift while you drag, it will make a circle. And that's an awesome tip. I'm actually fairly new to Silhouette myself. I just started working here about 8 months ago, and so I'm learning new things all the time too. So thank you so much for sharing that, Sherry. I'm totally going to do that next time. Okay, so this cardstock, like I said, oh, it actually cut through perfectly. So I did bump it up a little bit, but just a tiny bit. Okay, so that made our 3 circles. Okay, so we're going to put these on our card, and then let's go ahead and load our next one. I need you guys' opinion. Which one should we do next? Should we do the purple one, purple pinky one on top, or the neon pink? Which one should we do next? Neon pink or purple pink? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. Neon. Jacqueline says neon. So perfect. I love neon pink stuff. I think it's so fun. Man, you guys are all on the same page. Every single question I ask, all the answers are unanimous. Okay, so let's share this so I can just show you. This isn't anything new, this step. By this point, we've kind of gone over all the new stuff we're going to be doing. So we're just going to drag our medium-sized circle over here, and let's do Control Copy and Control Paste. I know that's how a lot of other programs are too. If you're not a keyboard shortcut person, that's a really easy way to do it. Okay, so we're going to send this one. Alright, so let's go ahead and unload this one. Okay, and then we're going to put our purpley pink on top. This would be really cute to use pop dots. I didn't grab any pop dots when I came in, but I think that would be a really cute way to do this project. So someone asked, what action is there, if any, to auto-space objects in the workplace? So let's go ahead and look at that. I wouldn't necessarily consider that a beginner option, or a beginner, what would you call it, tool. But I think it's a super awesome tool. Nonetheless, I use it all the time. So what she's talking about is, like, if my circles looked like this for some reason, if I had brought them out like that, I can select all of them by going over, like drawing a rectangle over all of them, and then go up here. This is the center and align tool, and these ones are what is going to space out your items perfectly, and also, oh, we don't want to align vertically, we want to align horizontally. So it's also going to line all your objects up and space them out evenly. So that is that tool, and it's a super cool tool. Like I said, it's kind of something that necessarily a beginner doesn't need to know, just because it's something that is kind of like, I would consider it next level in the software. But it's available in the basic edition, and it's super great. Wow, you guys are teaching me so many things. You said you can also click on duplicate. So apparently there is a duplicate button in Silhouette Studio also. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for all your help and all your participation. You guys are great. Okay, so let's go ahead and unload these. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to arrange our polka dots. I just did 3. If I were to do it again, I would probably just make maybe like one more and put one off to the side. But I'm just going to arrange them in this kind of like tri pattern, and I'll put down all of my circles. So when I'm using this tape runner, I just like to do an X for circles, seems sufficient. Just go ahead and put them down. Okay. Alright, and any other questions that you guys have? We're kind of coming to a close of our class, so go ahead and tell me in the comments if you're a beginner to silhouette, what are you looking for? Like, we want to do more of these beginner classes, so go ahead and tell me if this was what you were expecting, if you're kind of wanting something else in the future. Okay, somebody asked what is the difference between designer and business levels. So that's a super awesome question, and the answer is that they just have different tools and more things that are available. So I guess we can prepare some more information on that we can share on our Instagram and our Facebook, because I do think a lot of people would like to know that. So we will definitely note that and teach you guys more about that and educate you. Okay. Mary, I'm so glad you're able to join us and that you enjoyed the class. So Mary Haynes actually said that she wants to see some fabric cutting classes. And we've actually done some super awesome fabric cutting classes recently that are on our YouTube channel, and also that we've done with Michael's. So go ahead and check out those, because I'm sure we'll be doing more fabric classes. Felt is my favorite thing to cut by far. So I'm sure we'll be doing more of those classes, but we have done a few in the past. So this is what our card turned out like. It's kind of cute. Just a fun little card. You could even put some letters in here, or so many different possibilities, but I just wanted to show you guys how to use the shape tool. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to virtually send you this card by writing you a message with a marker. Alright, so we have the pink one, right? Okay, so I'm just going to write thanks for joining. See you soon. Okay. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm just going to go ahead and look over the chat real quick. We do have so many tutorials on our Silhouette 101 blog. It looks like some people are asking for more stuff. And that is a great resource. We have intro blog posts, we have intro videos. So if you are brand new to Silhouette, that's a perfect resource for you to use until we do one of these beginner classes again. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I've had a great time with you guys today. Like I said, my name is Mckenna, and I work here at Silhouette.